ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to GuildWars 2. Today is going to be a bit of something different, since the gameplay I'm going to be doing is mostly just going to be in the background. Honestly, there's nothing really interesting, I guess. In a way, it's just mostly going to be me farming around and, just gaining experience for masteries. Yeah. Anyways. Now, what I really want to talk about was a bit of the lore of Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. But, to be able to get to Guild Wars 2, it can be sometimes interesting to look at the first one of the series. So this is going to be too long, didn't want to read the lore or find it in a way. Most of this is based on my memories, so honestly, there's probably gonna be quite an amount of things that are false, incorrect, or just not exactly correct. And I'm going to go over quite a few things pretty fast. But I mean, I know a lot of you guys have probably just started this game quite recently, and perhaps you don't really know what they're talking about. So, when they talk about what do we call it, the bloodstone and all that, it might be that there's more to it than just simply a special stone that has magical power. Maybe it has a link, Maybe there's more to it. So here goes. So, yeah, as you can guess, before everything was there in creation, there were gods. If I remember correctly, there was somewhere around like 7, I think? Oh shit. Ah, shit. This is what happens when you're doing two things at the same time. Okay. So there were 7 gods. So there was Melendru, Balthazar, Menzi, Balthazar's twin brother, Grinth, Doom, and Lissa, Dwyna, and I think I got them all. Anyways, so there's 7 gods, mostly oh right, no, let's make 8, there's Abaddon. Okay, so there's the 5 that you already know, plus Cormyr that's missing, if you started as a human player. They mentioned the 6 gods, which are Grenth, Dwyna, Balthazar, Melandru, and Lissa, with Cormyr. And so Cormyr was the only one that wasn't there at the beginning, and there were 3 others. There was Abaddon, Menzi, and Doom. So those 3 guys were just all fancy-nancy, and in the end they didn't stick around much. So to say the least, they created all that is in this universe, mostly Terraria, and yeah, everything was lovey-dovey. In the end, Doom and Grenth had kind of a falling out, and Grenth managed to put him into prison, a kind of underworld prison, and let him to rot for the rest of eternity. Lovely, isn't it? Doom didn't like it, so at some times he tried to kind of get revenge on his brother. I think it was his brother or something. So sometimes you had quests related on him. Anyways, we don't do much about him. Menzi was Balthazar's twin, if I remember correctly, and honestly, it was basically the same thing as for Grenth and Doom. They didn't really get along, and he was banished to the Eternal Battlegrounds. So those 2 were fine, they were really banished quickly on. So there was only those 6 left. The 5 original ones, plus Abaddon. Now Abaddon, he was a bit smarter, and he just managed to get along with 5 gods, and everything was lovey-dovey. They created the world, create all the races, and create humans and Chars, Azurans, and all that. Everything was fine. And Abaddon, he decided that he wanted to do something kind of cool by himself, so he created magic. Now, magic, as it turns out, really tips the scales and makes some people become way stronger than others, as you can expect. And so, in the end, well, humans just started battling, and they banded together and sometimes and just waged war on one another. And so they made guilds and warred against each other, which is, as you can expect, why this game is called Guild Wars, because Guild had wars against one another. Oh boy, I'm going to be obvious. So anyways, one of the human gods kind of went up to the realm of the gods and kind of started complaining and whining and saying, "Dudes, why do you do that?" The gods actually looked down and like, "Oh shit, we didn't do that." And yeah, their guy Abaddon is like, "Yeah, that was me." The other guys weren't too happy about it because he kind of did something behind their back, and Abaddon really wanted to be kind of special and all that. The gods didn't like it, and they decided to imprison him into a third cell because of that. They really like imprisoning people, don't they? And so, yeah, they imprisoned him into the realm of torment. Lovely. And so they went back to the king and be like, "Oh, well, yeah, you're right. Magic isn't good for health and all that, so we'll do something about it, because honestly, this just ain't going the way that we wanted it to." So they did all that, all these things. Oh boy, I'm getting crushed. They did all that, and they took all magic that existed, and decided to condense it into a single stone. They took the king and said, "Well, you know what? Since you're one that came along and decided to ask us to do this, well, you'll be the guardian of a stone. And so to make sure that you do it right, we'll use your own blood. We'll use your blood to seal the stone." And so, well, as you can expect, it became the Bloodstone. And so, in their incredible genius, they decided to put the Bloodstone into a freaking volcano. Now, I may ask you, what do volcanoes do? They blow up. And bam went the Bloodstone, as you can expect, in tiny little pieces all over the place. So it exploded, it blew up, and magic reappeared in the world. How surprising, you might ask. But in the end, not all magic reappeared in the world, only little bits and pieces of it. Still, most of it was contained in the Bloodstones. So that's how the Bloodstones came to be. So magic, you know, it really got toned down a bit and hushed, but in the end, wars just came back around. It didn't really solve the problem. But the gods had said to the king, "You know what? We're doing this for you, but it's the last thing we're ever doing for you. So, fuck all, we're out of here." So they left. And so wars raged on and on and on and on and on. And so on and so forth, and so starts the world of Guild Wars. And so, if we are to do things chronologically speaking, we have to mention that around, like, a long time ago, there was another race that had 6 members, I think, which were Elder Gods, because there's Elder Dragons, pardon me. As you know, there's dragons and then there's Elder Dragons. So these guys, they liked magic. They consumed large amounts of it, and, you know, they didn't care about consuming tons of other things. They didn't mind it. I mean, they were just like little stuff, no sweat. And so they had lots of other champions and minions that just did the job to, like, give them the magic for them, feed me, and all that stuff. And they were all fine and happy. Of course, you can imagine that every single other race wasn't too happy with being fodder for a huge freaking dragon, but dragons didn't care. And so, if memory serves me, there was Krakaltorik, the kind of like amber giant, amber dragon. He kind of looked like amber. He was close to the east of Tyria. There was Jormag in the north, Primordius in the depths, Mordramoth to the west, Zaitan to the south. I can't really remember who was the last one, or maybe it was 5. Can't really remember. Anyways, one of Krakaltorix, the purple amber, no, not amber. What stone is purple? Whatever. Anyways, one of the Krakaltorix champions, called Glost, came into contact with a people. A kind of serpentine people called Forgotten. Well, they were actually called something else at that time, but so much time passed that they called themselves the Forgotten. And so, these Forgotten found out about Glost and decided, well, that they really wanted her to be nicer. How stupid does that sound? Whatever. They wanted her to be an ally, to turn her into an ally, and so they purged her of Krakaltorik's influence. By doing so, she gained a bit more of sentience and control over herself, and she decided that, you know, sentient beings were actually not that bad. Maybe, just maybe, they might be interesting. And so she took a fancy of them and decided to hide them from all of the other dragons. Krakaltorik didn't actually notice it. And in the end, the dragons, the elder dragons, once they feasted on so much magic, they went to sleep. So there was lots of all the races that were really grateful for Glost to help her out, to help them out survive. Some of them decided to help her, and, you know, become part of a faction that was supposed to help her out, you know, do things nicely. And so, if I remember well, that was the Brotherhood of the Dragon, created by dwarves. So anyways, back to the point. The dragons go to sleep and are never heard about ever again. Obviously, you know that's wrong, but let's just... Oh, champion. Let's just keep it at that. So, now we come to a time where we have... we're going to go on human history. Right, human history. So, the humans have developed and gone along and invaded different territories. So there's mostly 3 territories, 3 kingdoms of human. So there's the Kingdom of Ascalon, which is in the east. That is in the territory of ancient Char homelands. They decided to kick them out for so long that they forgot they kicked him out, and yeah, basically that's it. But Char weren't all too happy about it, and they decided to plan their revenge. In the middle, in like the center of Tyria, I'd say, there was Kryta. It was a nice place. There was nothing really special about it at that time. And finally, in the south, there was Or. So, Or was supposed to be the place where the gods had come into the land, and so it was supposed to be the most beautiful land of them all. Now, let's step back a little bit and talk a bit about Abaddon. the god that we had mentioned before on, and that had gotten, how should we say, banished into the torment. Now, before he left, he had actually created a temple and a people that knew of his secrets because, right, I forgot to mention, Abaddon was the god of secrets. So he had created a people, the Morganites, who were supposed to, well, help him come back from torment. They were infused with magic and were very powerful. And so they lived in Or. So his influence in Or was quite strong. Anyways, I just wanted to say that because it's quite important for later on. So I'm back to those three kingdoms of men. So those three kingdoms were in constant war against one another. They always had war and just battled on and on and on. And, you know, it was the GuildWars as expected. But it was still hard for them to battle since there was the whole Shiver Peaks in between them. I mean, crossing a whole mountain, whole mountains just to go war against one another is not that easy in the end. But they still did it. And so, one thing happened was that the Char actually did get their revenge. They did actually decide that the time was ripe for them to attack and take back Ascalon. And war started against the Char, and they didn't. It was fine actually for quite a while for the Ascalonians. They erected a great wall and managed to keep the Char on the other side, and things went rather well. Except after a while, honestly, the Char really had enough of it and decided to do what they called the Searing, which was a great ritual which basically blew up Ascalon. The lands got black and devastated. Earth became ash. Water became tar. It was quite gruesome when you compare it to before. It was a place verdant with trees and great rivers and lakes. It was quite a beautiful place, and it just became a wasteland, a complete wasteland. So, after this happened, still Ascalon managed to survive a bit of the ruins of a great people, but they couldn't stop the Char army. And the Char army decided, well, since we have come here for revenge, might as well just go on with it and conquer. So they decided to go through the Shiver Peaks and into Kryta and into Or. So both of them had very different tactics to deal with this this invasion. So Kryta actually had, shall we say, luck to have Saul, S-A-U-L, a man, a drunk, who one day was contacted by what he thought were gods. They were an ancient people, actually, called the Mursats, powerful people, who were frightened by something, I'll mention it later on, and decided to manipulate the people of Kryta. And so he found, with the power of the Mursat, he founded the White Mantle, which was an order that was supposed to keep peace. And so with this order of knights, he managed to push back the Char. And so the Char couldn't go forward. Now with Or, it was quite different. It was a great army, and Or wasn't that good when it came to battle. And they didn't expect the Char to come so quickly. And so, in the end, the Char were really going to get into Ara, the capital, and there was no way for them to actually manage to stop them. And so, the Vizier, one of the trusted men, uh, one of the most trusted men of the king, went into the ancient catacombs of the city. Man, I am lagging. One of the ancient catacombs of the city after a stranger told him about it, which was in fact a Margonite, one of the men of Abaddon, that's why I mentioned it, who tried to tempt him with ancient powers, and it actually worked out. He went into the ancient catacombs and found a scroll, a forbidden ritual. You know, they love forbidden rituals. And he told the king about it, and the king said, well, maybe it's forbidden for a reason. The vizier said, it's fine, it's fine. He did a ritual and blew the whole place up. Yeah. He blew the entirety of Ara and Or, actually. The whole place just sunk into the water and never came back up. Well, it did, but that you already knew anyways if you're playing Guild Wars 2. And so, in the end, yeah, he did achieve what he wanted. I mean, the Vizier actually did manage to kill all of the Char and, well, I guess you could say save Or? He kind of doomed it entirely. One of the after effects of the fact that he destroyed everything was that he became a Lich, an undying Lich. Very powerful. And I'm not sure if this was an effect of it, but I think, if I remember correctly, that he created a very powerful scepter called the Scepter of Or. This was a very important artifact for Guild Wars 1 prophecies. And so, this was actually the setting for Guild Wars 1 prophecies and how everything came into motion. So for those who played it, what happened was that Glint, which is Galos's new name, made a prophecy long ago that foretold the falling of a Mersat, that they would fall to the Titans, which were entities, burning entities, that resided on the other side of a door, a special door, which was a portal, in the Flaming Isles, which was called the Door of Komali. Knowing about this prophecy, the Mersat decided to try and find a way to stop this from happening, and decided to create a fortress on the Door of Komali, and to basically power all this using the souls of men, of special men. Some men had very delicious souls apparently, and basically it was very good to power their stuff up. So they decided to do this, and where did they get the men? Well, from Krytop. That's why Soul created the White Mantle. And the thing is, the Door of Komali is actually a bloodstone. And on the other side were the Titans. Beings made of fire and lava. Lovely chaps, really. You should meet them. No, they weren't. These entities actually were revered as gods by the Char. They thought they were gods, and the Char were all basically from the Flaming Legion at that time, which, as you can expect, kind of changed if you look at the lore and who are the bad guys in Guild Wars 2. But anyways, so you as a hero are supposed to go, and you come from Ascalon, and you go around, kind of stop the White Mantle from killing away with people. You get the Scepter of Or. You go fuck up the Mersat. You go see Glint. Glint tells you that you are the predestined hero. Blah 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 blah. You go, you kill the Lich, you banish him into torment with Abaddon, because you know he's kind of a guy, the chap that made everything happen anyways. He's the one that started it all. So anyways, that's the story of prophecies. You banish the Lich into torment. And so that's a kind of a beginning. There were dwarves, blah 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 blah. Alright, one of the funny things to mention is that basically every single one of the centaurs that you can find, as you can expect, are warmongers and all want battle. All except one. Ventari. You actually meet a centaur named Ventari at a few places, and he always wants peace. And he's a cool dude, actually. In one of the games, you actually see him plant a seed, making a very strange tree in the south of Tyria. And he says that a traveler gave it to him. As you can expect, that was a pale tree. It was just a funny tidbit. Nothing really special or anything about it. So that was lore from prophecies. Now, if we are to go for the second game, factions, which I will very quickly go on it since it doesn't have that much of an effect on Guild Wars 2. It is mentioned quite a few times, true, but in the end, it doesn't have that much impact. So Guild Wars 2 faction revolves around Cantha, another type of continent, I suppose you could say, that is way down in the south of Tyria. So in Cantha, it is more like a how should I say, a Chinese type of place, and in Cantha, the story was that basically there's a great plague that comes out, transforming people into zombie-like abominations. Long story short, you find out that the reason for this to come is an ancient dead bodyguard that was banished into the mists, came back to life. Well, not came back to life, but decided to break from his duties and tries to come back to life. The fact that he's so powerful, ugh. He is so powerful that the fact that he comes back actually creates this plague. Long story short, you have to find a way to kill him once more using the powers of the ancestors who actually managed to kill him the first time around. His name is Shiro Tagashi, and if you play Revenant, you do channel one of... If you channel the assassin, the legend of the assassin, you're channeling the legend of Shiro Tagashi, which is basically one of the main reasons why I mentioned this. Because honestly, there's not much to say else than that. If we are to compare to right now, Cantha actually is closed off. There's a new emperor, and he has decided that that Cantha is only for humans, and basically all non-humans can just go fuck off. Lovely guy. So basically all borders are closed, everything is cut off, and we probably won't hear much of it. That's just as it is. So the third game is called Nightfall, and this one centers around Elona, the land of the golden sun. So this one I might talk about a tad bit more than Cantha. It is actually down to the south, and you can see just a little bit of Elona if you look at the bottom of Guild Wars 2's map. They are actually from the same continent. They are part of the same continent, and I'd say that the inspiration for Cantha came from Arabian Tales. So, long story short, if you're trying to play this game, this is obviously a lot of spoilers. I don't know why I just mentioned that it's spoilers right now, but I mean, if we're talking about lore, obviously it's a hell of a spoiler alert. Anyways, Long story short, Abaddon is trying to get out of his hellhole, which is torment, and is affecting the land with nightfall, which is to say that the sun is starting to be darkened, considering that you're in kind of like a, how should I say, you're kind of like in a desert kind of place. That's quite odd, and it changes everything. He's trying to merge torment with the land of Elona, and it doesn't go well. And so your character is part of an army from Isten, an island of the south, and under the lead of Warmaster Cormier, you try and take him down. Yes, as you can, if you have noticed, I didn't mention Cormier, which was supposed to be the last goddess that you know about, but I didn't mention until now. Yes, she was a War Master, a human, too. In the end, you do go into torment, into a land of mad, of a mad god, and go to him and actually try and kill him off. And you do. But, you know, power is power, and power can't actually be stopped. So there needs to be someone who has the role of God of Secrets. And so it is Cormier's duty to do this. And so she takes on the role, and voila, she becomes a goddess. She became the goddess of secrets. That was basically a long story short, because, oh boy. So, along for little tidbits and fun facts, you are able to have some kind of special mercenaries in Guild Wars 2, called heroes, that you control. And one of them is the Master of Whispers, yes. The Order of Whispers was founded in Elona at that time, which was about like 200 years prior to Guild Wars 2's events. And so you actually have the Master of Whispers as your lackey, which is kind of fun when you think about it, considering how important it is in Guild Wars 2. What else to mention? What else to mention? So you finally do that, and you kind of finish off Abaddon. Another fun fact to mention is that Shiro Tagashi from Kantha, the reason why he became so much of an outlaw was because he was tempted by a demon of Abaddon. Again, yeah, Abaddon was basically like one of the greatest villains from Guild Wars 1. So you defeated Abaddon, and everything's so fancy and great. And there you go, that's the third game. Thing is, ArenaNet, the one who producing this game, were already planning at that time to create Guild Wars 2. And they decided that it would be in continuity. So they had to kind of like make the edges overlap of the games. And so they decided to make a third game, well, fourth game, an expansion, let's say, that kind of makes things overlap. This one was called The Eye of the North. So this one I'll talk a tad bit more, since it mentions quite a few tidbits, and obviously it has more influence on the lore of Guild Wars 2 than most of the rest. So in Eye of the North, you quickly meet the Azurans, Yeah, the Azurans, which is the first time that you actually meet them in all of the games. And you meet the dwarves like Ogden. Yeah, he was actually one of the heroes too. For them, the greatest one of the threats that they have would be the destroyers. Because, well, according to ancient legends of the dwarves, there's the Great Destroyer is a being that will come back and kill them all. Well, they decide that you are one of the guys who is going to help them build an army and kill off a Great Destroyer, and kind of help them not die. So you have to go around in new territories which is basically just the northern Shiver Peaks and Azuran territories and Char homelands. First time that you're going into real Char homelands. And the Norn. Well, Norn territories were, since it's not the case anymore, were northern Shiver Peaks. Now, if I were to quickly sum what happens in there, you help a few characters out, some that are still mentioned in Guild Wars 2 as heroes of our people. I think there's basically only in Azurans that they're not too mentioned. Well, a few are mentioned, that's for sure. But all in all, he's probably one of the least mentioned, and that would be Vec. So, oh dear, there's a lot of guys. So, you meet a few characters such as Gad, Ula, and Vec for the Azurans. You might have noticed a few names that I mentioned. You make them help you out into building a huge machine that is supposed to help destroy the destroyers. That's one weird way of saying it, but yeah, pretty much. On the Norn side, you basically convince the Norns that the destroyers are very good prey. And to do this, to earn their trust, you help a Norn out called Jorah, which might still ring a bell. I know, I'm going to say that a lot. But anyways, you help her kill her brother, who is a Norn who lost control of his power of being able to transform into a bear because he tapped into an ancient and forbidden power that was under a lake, which was basically Jormag. His brother's name was Vanir. Yeah, that one should really get those bells going. So yeah, he was the first one who he didn't really worship the dragon. He didn't like the dragon, for all I know. But yeah, so you kill him off, help her out, and everything's lovey-dovey. On the Char homeland side, you manage to help out a Char. You actually help out a Char, get his warband back together, and convince the rest of the Char that maybe the destroyers aren't the best replacements for the Titans. Because since you basically busted the Titans, well, they don't worship the Titans anymore. They decided to worship the destroyers. And it's at that point that they decided to have no gods and to make the different warbands. And to exile the Flame Legion, which basically gets the place where we're at with the Char. The Char that you help out is called Pyre Fierce Shot. You can see his statue in Char Homelands. For Jorah, you can see her statue in whatchamacallit, in Norn territory. I think she's on like the first map or something. And yeah, that's basically it. So in the end, you do battle with a Great Destroyer, or what you actually think is the Great Destroyer. So it happens that it's only one of the lieutenants of the Great Destroyer, and because you kill the lieutenant, it kind of wakes up the Great Destroyer, who happens to be Primordius, one of the Great Dragons. And so, because you do this, you kind of wake up one of the greater Elder Dragons, which is the beginning of the end, and the beginning of Guild Wars 2. So, what should I say else? Now that's basically all I'm going to say and mention about Guild Wars 1. There's lots of other things that happen. You know about how the Shining Blade came to be, and what happened to the White Mantle, and so on and so forth. But I won't mention too much of it. Um, I'm only going to say that to be able to fight the Great Destroyer, pardon me, the uh, the dwarves made a ritual to make them all become a stone, therefore being almost um, invulnerable, but not being able to procreate, which basically meant the end of a race. Which is kind of sad when you think of it, but it's a sacrifice they were willing to make. So that's why you don't see any other dwarves, and that you will never actually see other dwarves. They're all gone. After a while, they can actually die and just get bored. I mean, everlasting life is kind of long. So now a bit of a lore in between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 comes in order. So the elder dragons awaken, and the different races have to deal with it. Which is to say, it's not very easy. And so they actually do manage to form a pact, and the greatest champions of each race go together and make a guild called Destiny's Edge. So as you can expect, there is a Norn, Air, a Sylvari, one of the youngest races there is Interia, that came out of a pale tree, though that you probably already know about that. There is a human called Logan. There is a Char Ritlock. There are two Azurans. There's Snaff, a professor, and Zoja, well, who wasn't much of a professor at that time. She was very known, a genius, a savant. And yeah, that makes 6. So they actually try and kill off the first dragon they meet, which happens to be Glint. Glint kind of laughs at them and say, "Dudes, I'm actually on your side." So with the help of Glint, they try and take on Krakatorik. Long story short, it doesn't go as planned, and Snaff dies because of air, and so does Glint. Yeah, about that. Glint dies, which is lovely. Basically, the one girl, well, she was a dragon, yes. One dragon that was nice and all dies. Pretty fast. Krakatorik has his revenge. Which he's very happy about. So, for that fight, he actually, if I remember well, he actually does take flight from his resting place and goes all the way down south of his resting place, which creates the scar, which you can actually see on the map. It's a real big purple thing on the east side of a map in Char territories. So yeah, basically, Destiny's Edge is almost disbanded because of this, and they have a hard time dealing with Snaff's death. Glint, they don't mention her much because, I mean, who would really like to mention that they were hunting a dragon with a dragon? But all of them go into their respective countries, and at that point, you basically know the rest. Now, there's a few other things to mention. Now, what I have to mention is that there was a people that was dedicated to helping Glint and safeguarding her legacy, as I mentioned before. And so those were called the Zephyrhites. And so at the moment of Glint's death, they decided to take her body so that no one else could take it and use her powers for ill, because her body was a treasure. While doing so, they found an egg, and they could use her power to power their special floating boats. Now, this point I get to where Guild Wars 2 is at, and I'll probably do another video where I explain the lore of Guild Wars 2 Season 1 and 2 from memory, because this one is getting way longer than expected. and it's gonna be really too long to continue. So I hope you guys enjoyed and it helped you out, I guess. So, you know, in this, you're able to find little tidbits and things that maybe you didn't know, and it's actually quite fun about the game. Because finding so many little things that are hidden all over the place, little gems like that, is really what makes me always want to come back and look at it. Because it's those little things. It's saying, oh, I know this character, I actually played with her. And now she's a legend of her people. It's the all the things that happened afterwards. And it's really fun like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in next video.